Good day, our dear friends. Today, we will discuss the philosophy of education of one of the most famous ancient philosopher, Aristotle.
Before we proceed to his philosophy, let me introduce first who Aristotle is. Aristotle, the great philosopher and scientist, was born in Stagira, a town in Chalcidice. At the age of 17, he became a member of the Greek philosopher Plato's school. When he stayed for 20 years after Plato's death in 348 BCE, Aristotle taught philosophy, first at Atarneus in Asia Minor, then in Mytilene on the island of Lesbos. Then he became tutor of Alexander the Great at the court of Macedonia in 335 or 334 BCE. He returned to Athens and founded a school called the Lyceum.
Aristotle's first writings are modeled on his teacher's example, Plato. Its content and lectures are patterned to this. As the time goes by, the writings of Aristotle that we are sharing, especially in the present time, consist on treatises in which they are somehow deduced to it. Some may probably presented as lecture, and some came from the students' notes.
These treatises are important because they bear an investigative report that describe a method of an inquiry and its results. Each treatise includes, first, a statement of the aim of the subject matter. Second, a consideration of the other thinker's idea. Third, an examination of proposed principles with the aim of determining the one that has the best prospect of explaining the subject matter. The fourth, a search for the fact that illustrate the proposed principle. And lastly, the number 5, an explanation of the subject matter by showing how the proposed principle explains the observed facts.
In Aristotle's philosophy of education, it is commonly found on his treatises. They are not like Plato's Republic that discusses too much to it. Aristotle's educational thinking is somehow similar to his account of pursuing the highest good for human being in the society. Let us take a glimpse on this before we proceed.
For Aristotle, an individual's conduct is inseparable to community. That individual is firmly attached to the community. Over to them are ethics and politics that governs them all. If that individual produces a good life in the community, his social life is healthy. As he quote this, in community life, the activity of doing cannot bring into existence something apart from doing. It can only end in further doing. And in education, as one of the activities of doing, does not produce anything apart from education, but must be a continuing process that has no end except further education.
Aristotle emphasizes the importance of early education, where it develops the young mind of every child to understand the world. He divided the schooling into 3 stages. First, primary education. Ages 7 to 14 would attend this stage and consist of gymnastic, writings, readings, music, and drawing.
Second, the second secondary education, ages 14 to 21, would attend secondary and would continue their primary studies while implementing literature, poetry, drama, chorale music, and dancing. The last 4 years would be spent in military drill, tactics, and strategy.
And last, the higher education. ages 21 and continue as long as the student was willing and able. This stage, as what we get from the text, is for males only, as Aristotle believed that women are not capable of such complex studies.
As we observe the different stages they attempt to develop as the student continues his study, it is not only the intellectual virtues are growing mature, but also the moral virtues that the student have. The young mind of every child cannot hold or grasp easily the intellectual virtues. They commit they commit mistake. It is very natural for them.
But as the time goes by, they realize that the action they have done in the past were correct or not because of the moral virtues they have learned from habit. Their moral virtue then are triggered, and these are not learned by intellectual principles.
As stated in the book, there are dispositions need to be cultivated. Under moral virtues, the piety, vice, and incontinence, and under intellectual virtues, the art and friendship. These, then, except for vice and incontinence, are the dispositions education is to foster, according to Aristotle, because they are required for the performance of activities that are parts of or means to the best life or highest happiness of the individual and or the state, and because, except for sensory excellence, they are not innate or given by God. Thus, education is the only way man can acquire them, other than by mere chance. We must all come to possess these dispositions in so far as we can, if we are to be as happy as possible, if we are to come as close as possible to achieving what we aim at in life, namely, excellence of activity. And education must help us to acquire them. Nature does make a contribution, namely, our natural endowment, and so does fortune. But, as Aristotle puts it, the rest is a task of education.
Another emphasis on his philosophy is the public education. Here, Aristotle insisted that the state should be responsible for educating their citizens.
The government or society must ensure that its citizens are acquiring proper education and receiving proper quality of learning so that they can produce in the future a good and talented personalities with unique skills that can help our nation better and be prosperous.
although thinkers may know in a preliminary way what the highest good is, that which is required by reason, they will not actually find out what it is until they learn to live in cooperation with the highest principles of reason. The highest good is never completely known, because the pursuit of it leads to further action, which has no end, but more and more action. The contingent nature of social existence makes it necessary to find out what is good for us in what we do. We cannot truly learn what it is apart from conduct. While reason is a part of conduct, alone it is not sufficient for realizing the highest good. Only by our conduct can we find out what our possibilities are, and only by further conduct can we strive to make those possibilities actual.
Thank you for listening to our discussion. We hope that you acquire some information regarding to Aristotle's philosophy of education. May God bless us all and mabuhay.